Hello, I am Candace Perry, Environmental Justice Director for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. With NJDEP having adopted the regulations necessary to implement the state's landmark environmental justice law, I hope this brief tutorial will help you to understand how to use the Environmental Justice Mapping, Assessment, and Protection Tool, or EJMAP. EJMAP is designed to analyze the extent to which New Jersey's overburdened communities are experiencing adverse environmental and public health stressors, and to assist the department in determining additional disproportionate impacts under the environmental justice rules. Before I dive into the tutorial, let's start with some background. If you're up to speed, please skip to the timestamp on the screen to get right to it. Unfortunately, there are communities in New Jersey that, because of their minority status, income, and limited English proficiency, experience disproportionate environmental burdens like air and water pollution. These communities tend to have comparatively less environmental benefits, such as access to open and green spaces, with trees that help cool and clean the air and soak up stormwater runoff. As a result, these communities tend to experience higher rates of health issues like cancer, elevated blood lead levels, and asthma. The goal of environmental justice is to ensure that everyone, regardless of who they are or where they live, has equal protection from environmental and health hazards, equal access to amenities like parks and outdoor recreation, and equal ability to influence environmental decisions about their communities. It's well past time for New Jersey to act to achieve this vision. That leads us to New Jersey's environmental justice law, which offers a new opportunity to make progress toward this goal. The law requires DEP to assess relevant environmental and public health stressors affecting New Jersey's overburdened communities and to deny or modify permits for certain facilities that cannot avoid causing or contributing to adverse environmental and public health stressors in those spaces. The first of its kind in the nation, the environmental justice law allows DEP to consider existing environmental and public health stressors on a community when evaluating new or renewal permit applications for certain types of facilities. The department's authority under the law applies when three criteria are met. First, the facility is located or is proposed to be located in an overburdened community or an OBC. Second, the proposed or existing facility is one of 8 types of facilities listed in the law, such as a major source of air pollution, a scrap metal facility, or a landfill. Third, the applicant seeks a DEP permit or approval covered by the law. The law defines overburdened communities, or OBCs, as those census block groups in which, according to the most recent U.S. Census, at least 35% of those households qualify as low-income households. Low-income households are those that are at or below twice the poverty threshold as determined by the U.S. Census Bureau. Or at least 40% of the residents identify as minority or as members of a state-recognized tribal community. Or at least 40% of the households have limited English proficiency. That means households without an adult who speaks English very well, according to the information from the Census Bureau. Where the EJ law applies, a permit applicant must submit an Environmental Justice Impact Statement, or an EJIS, to DEP. The EJIS is a document that allows reviewers to evaluate whether a new facility or modifications to an existing facility would contribute to environmental and public health stressors in its host OBC. The EJIS must also address how the applicant proposes to avoid such impacts, and where avoidance is not feasible, minimize them. It will be made available to the public in advance of the public hearing. To ensure members of the overburdened community have their voices heard, an applicant is required to hold a public hearing in the community to present the proposed project and the EJIS, with a public comment period of at least 60 days to allow ample opportunity for feedback from those most impacted by the proposed project. Notice and materials must be made available in languages relevant to the community members, and the applicant must address all comments received. The department will evaluate the EJS and the information presented at the public hearing and through public comment to determine if environmental or public health stressors expected from the actions in the permit application would, in addition to stressors already impacting the community, cause or contribute to adverse cumulative environmental or public health stressors that are higher than those experienced by non-overburdened communities. If that is the case, a disproportionate impact is present, and DEP may deny the permit or only approve it with modifications that avoid or minimize those impacts. On April 17, 2023, DEP adopted rules in the New Jersey Register to implement the environmental justice law after an extensive stakeholder and rulemaking effort. The EJMAP tool provides DEP, applicants, and the public with a way to see the location of OBCs throughout the state, as well as facilities regulated under the law, and which environmental and public health stressors already impact these communities. This information will help an applicant produce their EJS and to understand the process used by DEP to evaluate the EJS. By providing necessary data to understand the issues, EJMAP also ensures everyone, including those in the community, can meaningfully engage in the decision-making process. The tool is released today in the final version for regulatory purposes and includes changes to its underlying calculations and methodologies and updated data to better align with DEP rules. The tool's technical guidance document has also been updated to discuss those changes and additions. Before we dive into specifics, I want to talk about some functionality we have added for EJMAP's GIS-based tabs to help orient users and provide additional information. These tabs now have a comprehensive glossary and list of acronyms, a comprehensive how-to guide that walks users through each icon on the EJMAP tabs, explains their functionality, and provides directions for their use, and a print icon that allows users to print the map displayed in various formats and layouts. We'll explore some additional icon functionality in more detail as we go through each tab in EJMAP. So let's get started. The Introduction tab provides an overview of environmental justice in New Jersey, the state's EJ law and its requirements, New Jersey's overburdened communities, and the purpose and use of EJMAP. The remaining 3 tabs have GIS features that allow users to directly search a specific address or location, or use the parcel search button to search for block and lot information. The Overburdened Communities tab provides the most up-to-date OBC locations. As of the release date of this tutorial, EJMAP uses 2021 American Community Survey, or ACS, data. The Overburdened Communities layer will be updated at least every other year as required by the New Jersey EJ law, but likely annually to coincide with the Federal Census Bureau's release of ACS data. The previous year's ACS data will be viewable for comparison. However, the most recent year OBC layer is always the official layer for determining OBC locations. Additional layers provide a more detailed breakdown of the OBCs based on which combination of the 3 demographic criteria, income, minority status, or limited English proficiency, the block group meets to qualify as an OBC. Every 10 years, the Census Bureau updates include block group boundary changes because of redistricting for voting purposes. Those decennial boundaries are then established for another decade. Since the boundaries were reset for 2020, the 2021 updates only shift OBC designations because of demographic data changes. You can see the most updated list of municipalities that have overburdened block groups on the Office of Environmental Justice's website at www.dep.nj.gov/EJ/communities. Because block groups listed as having no population could undermine the protections intended by the EJ law, DEP identified any zero population block group immediately adjacent to an OBC as an adjacent block group, or ABG. These block groups may be subject to the EJ rules. In EJMAP, ABGs are identified in yellow. To demonstrate the functionality of this tab, let's start with an example. I will use the address of DEP's main office building in Trenton. If I zoom out a bit, you can see the search result in a blue shaded area. According to the legend here on the left, this means that DEP's office is located within an OBC. If I want to see a bit more of what's happening on the screen, I can turn on and off the legend using this icon here. And if I get lost looking left and right to where I am, I can use the Layer List button to turn on a set of layers to help orient myself. For example, I can turn the municipality layer on and off, or do the same with the OBC layer. If I turn off the 2021 OBC layer, but turn on the 2021 OBC by criteria layer, I can see the breakdown of designated OBCs by their combination of criteria from the EJ law. According to the legend on the left, DEP's office is located within an OBC designated as low income and minority. If you're interested in other ways to visualize the map, click on the Base Map button to choose different map imagery backgrounds. Clicking on Community Map will allow you to see community-based sites, or you might be interested in a navigation style map. The Facilities tab shows the locations of existing regulated facilities covered by the EJ law. It also displays subcategories of facilities, so for example, specific types of transfer stations and recycling facilities. Each facility type is represented by its own symbol. Remember, there are 8 types of applicable facilities. When you click on the tab, all of the applicable facilities appear, but layers for each type of facility can be turned on or off, so that you can view one or any combination of facility types, or all of them simultaneously, to get an understanding of which facilities are in a community. Going back to our example, if I search DEP's main office building again, and I zoom out, I can see which facilities may be near my search location. So it looks like the 401 building is near a major source of air pollution and a few scrap metal facilities. The last tab, the Stressor Summary tab, provides key data to support the development and evaluation of an EJIS. Essentially, this map adds environmental and public health stressor information on top of demographic criteria that define OBCs to paint a picture of the environmental and public health conditions that a block group experiences. The map on this tab gives a view of OBCs already adversely impacted by stressors when compared to appropriate geographic point of comparison, or the GPC. I'll explain more about these terms in a minute. Through stakeholdering, DEP determined 26 key stressors in the following categories: concentrated areas of air pollution, mobile sources of air pollution, contaminated sites, various types of waste, recycling, or scrap metal facilities, point sources of water pollution, miscellaneous stressors with potential public health impacts such as a lack of recreational open space, proximity to or density to polluting facilities, and social determinants of health such as unemployment. Details about these stressors are available in the final EJMAP technical guidance document, accessible at www.nj.gov/DEP/EJ, and as a link in the Introduction tab to EJMAP. When you first arrive on this tab, you can identify the OBCs and ABGs that are adversely stressed in dark blue and those not adversely stressed in light blue. Again, if you type in our example of DEP's main office, you can see the building is within an OBC already adversely stressed. If we click on the block group from our example and expand the pop-up box, some information appears. For each criterion under the OBC definition, income, minority status, and English proficiency, we can see the percentage for the chosen block group and the criteria that makes this block group overburdened. This one is designated as an OBC due to the low income and minority status. But how does the tool make the determination that this overburdened block group is adversely stressed? Let's click on the link that says Download Data Table specific to the block group, which opens this table. Each of our 26 stressors are listed, and for each one, a value is assigned for the OBC, the non-OBC portion of the applicable county, and the non-OBC portion of the state. Starting with the ground level ozone stressor, which looks at the average number of days that the ozone level is above the health standard over a 3-year period, the value for this one overburdened block group is about 2.67 days. So if you line up all the ground level ozone values for each of the non-overburdened and adjacent block groups in the county or in the entire state, from least to greatest, and take the median or the middle value, you get the county or the state non-overburdened community 50th percentile value, which you can see is 2.33 for the county and 0.99 for the state. To determine if this block group is more stressed by ozone than its non-overburdened neighbors, we must establish a geographic point of comparison. To do that, we'll choose the value for the state or the county that is lowest, meaning most protected from a health perspective. In this case, 0.99 is lower than 2.33, so we're going to compare this OBC to the median value of all the non-overburdened block groups in the state, which is the OBC's geographic point of comparison. This OBC's value of 2.67 is higher than their geographic point of comparison of 0.99, so this OBC is adversely stressed by ozone. You'll see a yes in the last column. For each stressor, the tool does the same comparison analysis and provides a total count of the number of yes responses. For this OBC, there are 23 yeses, which means this OBC is already adversely stressed for 23 out of the total 26 stressors. The 23 is the combined stressor total, or CST, for this OBC. Next, we compare the combined stressor total of the OBC to the combined stressor total for the non-OBC 50th percentile for the relevant county or state, again, whichever is lower. This establishes a geographic point of comparison. The tool calculates the combined stressor total for the non-OBC county or state values in the same way as it does individual stressors. For each non-overburdened block group and ABG in the relevant county or state, the combined stressor totals are lined up from least to greatest. The median or middle value represents the combined stressor total for the non-overburdened and ABG communities in the state or the county. In this example, the value for the county and state are the same, but if they differed, we would pick the lower of the two. Since 23 is higher than 13, this OBC is adversely stressed. Just to note that if we had done this exercise for an adjacent block group, the pop-up box to download the data table would contain two tables. The first table shows the values for the ABG. Because some of the stressors are population-based, these show as null for an ABG because it has no population. To address this issue, the tool looks at values from the OBC with the highest combined stressor total when making adversely stressed determinations for the adjacent block group. The second table provides the information on the highest OBC neighbor used in this comparison. If we come back to the tool, the About table on the right side of this tab shows the CST and the geographic point of comparison for each county and the state. New or renewal permit applications for regulated facilities in adversely stressed OBCs are subject to additional environmental justice permitting requirements. One final function added to the Stressor Summary tab is the Filter button. This function allows users to query for only OBCs or adjacent block groups throughout the state adversely impacted for specific stressors. For example, you could filter to see only those OBCs or adjacent block groups that are adversely impacted for lack of tree canopy. The filter also allows users to look at multiple stressors simultaneously. So for example, locating all the adversely impacted OBCs and adjacent block groups that are stressed for lack of tree canopy and impervious cover. The How to Use function includes more details on using this feature. And that is an overview of the final EJMAP. If you have feedback on the functionality of this tool or the guidance document, or have questions related to either, please email ejmapfeedback@dep.nj.gov. Please also visit dep.nj.gov/ej to learn more about environmental justice in New Jersey. Thank you.